Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. So this is a A-League single digit queue.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is actually getting into the 5Q to 1 Dawn range. So let's just see about basics. So at this point, you actually have to start applying like multi-purpose moves and stuff. So just going in.
So right away, I mean, as black, I felt bad about this because I didn't get Sente. Was there a way I could force Sente from this Joseki?
Why do you need Sente? I mean, there is, but like, why?
I think like just he played away and he wasn't dead, so I didn't get Sente.
Yeah, but it's just exchanging big moves. I think the difference is like too small to matter for amateurs. Like maybe if you were a pro, or even like 7 Dawn plus, it might matter. But like at this level, like there's nothing wrong with black's position.
Well, I'm saying like in general, I like to be able to figure out how to get Sente
if
from
you
the
want,
wall.
If you want Sente, you Nobi, and then Hane, and you can take Sente and do something.
Okay, thanks.
This is the Joseki study. So white has this response or that response, and it leads to the pretty much the same shape. So this is the one you want to study. Do your research on the cutting point and this squeeze stuff. We don't have time to talk about it today because that would be the entire hour right there. But this is it's a Nobi if you want Sente.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. I think the first one I don't like is this one because in my approach method, I talk about for big moves, open corners, then open sides, then largest framework. Okay. So I think there's still an open side on the right. So I don't want to invade it. And I don't consider this an open side because now white has enclosed it and there's a third line stone. So it's not quite open anymore. There's a stone on it. So I consider the right side the open side. So I would play here and then maybe start middle game and where white has to deal with your area. And I think it's also really big to extend from a Shamari. It's pretty huge. So this is the first one. It's not my favorite move. Okay, Joseki. All right, white goes in. So shoulder. So this one is making a statement that I want to develop. That's what shoulder hits say, is I want to develop like this area right here. But you kind of want to attack rather than develop. And also you'll even though like this mark stone is weak, you also need to say that this thickness is almost weak. Like it's not quite like super weak, but it doesn't have a base. And in the opening, it's very, very important to understand what does and does not have bases. So usually you'd want to push it towards thickness. So maybe like push it towards a thickness, take the base, and then start running while surrounding. That could be powerful. Or if you just really want defense, like let's say you just want your eye space, you can settle and then go play a big move. You can bully this now because now you can put more pressure and develop because now you have eye space. But if you're not careful, if you just go for developing, so let's say we play something like this, and we just go for developing. The more we focus on developing, the more we're ignoring this, and this can get weak. You can get bullied. I'm not saying it'll get attacked right now. Like this area is pretty huge, but this is something we have to keep in mind is anything that doesn't have a base. So I kind of want to attack this stone from the third line instead of the fourth line because we don't really have anything to develop yet, but we do have some weakness. So I kind of want to think about bases here rather than just influence.
Really quick, just conceptually, like do you consider the bottom left a bad result for black just because we gave up Sente and developed a stick that can be bullied? Like that feels kind of...
Honestly, I don't think the thickness is bad. I think you're not getting value from the thickness. So thickness is weird. Thickness by itself is zero value. Okay, but thickness is kind of like this magical tool that can do so many things. So, for example, you can use thickness to support an invasion. You can use thickness to support an attack. You can use thickness to defend something. Thickness can do many things, but if you don't do something with it, it has no value. So if you say like I'm worried that this sickness isn't doing anything, well, let's ask. Let's just zoom forward real quick, and say what value did you get from having thickness right here?
I
So you
mean,
ended up getting a
don't
weak
do too much because it's embarrassing what happened. But
yeah, so you just get a weak group, right? So that's what I mean. Thickness, the Joseki can't be bad. It's facing the right direction of play. You didn't mess up the Joseki. That can't be the mistake. The result's a little weird. I just realized that you didn't. For some reason, my brain was auto-correcting to this result. So the result's a little bit strange because here you'd want to back up and then go into the normal Joseki. So this one looks like you went here, and then instead of taking Sente, you kept going. It's a little bit different than normal Joseki, so maybe it's like a couple points smaller than it should be. But I wouldn't say it's like a major mistake. It's just you're not using it. Does that kind of make sense for the evaluation?
yeah, definitely. Thanks.
But one thing I will want to remind you of is make sure you understand that this doesn't have a base. But it's not like we can't get value. So imagine like something like this. That's pretty interesting. Like just some caps and knights moves and 1 point jumps. No crazy shapes. Like we're not doing any fancy Korean reading. We're just surrounding, right? But we're playing with our weak group. We're surrounding our opponent. So it's not like we're not getting value. And imagine even like you get another extension here because white never defended. So I wouldn't say it has no value. It's just you have to do something with it. So I wouldn't say it's a mistake. So we do get a cutting point here. I'm not sure why we're playing a Hane, but let's just see how it goes. Okay, we have a base on the bottom. We have cutting stones right here. White has a basis group right here and a basis group right here.
I'm curious. You said before we get too far ahead, you said the Hane's wrong here.
I wouldn't say wrong. It's just I don't understand it. Like, what is your goal? So for me, when I said the shoulder hit, I'm like, okay, shoulder hits are usually used for developing, right, and for building an area. So when we play a Hane and get cut, we're not really developing. We're more like attacking. But if I wanted to attack, I would have attacked from the third line. So it's just a matter of maybe you have a different plan than I do. So I'm trying to see like, okay, what is your follow-ups to maybe understand your plan. So let's just see what you get out of it. So in Go, you can't just, it's hard to say if something's bad. The only way we can say something's bad is if we look at the result and say, hey, did you get value from it? And then compare it to like what I would have done, I guess. So when I say, what would I do here? I could think that, and I could say, this is the value I would get, and compare it to what you got and say, okay, this is what I would have done instead. But then a pro walks in the room and has something completely different, right? Pro walks in the room, like, no, you should have done this, obviously. Yet you don't know, right? So when I say this Hane, it's not what I would do, because the way I use the Hanes is for surrounding or developing or surrounding a weak group, and white can still make a base. So for me, it's a little bit awkward, but it's not like it's a bad shape here. I just want to see what you do with it. All right, so you are surrounding white. This is interesting to me because this feels like the vital point for both, because it's your eyes and your opponents, and you won't die here because that just is unplayable. So I actually really like this move. I don't actually know what white's going to do here. Just take with a base, and then when white runs, you run. Just aggressive defense feels pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. You keep Haneing, and I'm just like, just defend. Just stay solid and move on. Like maybe white lives, don't care, and then I go and maybe Hane here or cap something, or maybe I just attack it from the right. I don't know. Just attack these stones. But I just want solid over here so I can go to the next thing. But Hane, are these cutting points okay? Have we checked these?
We'll see.
That's a lot of Liberty problems.
I was having a bad day.
Yeah, you're leaving too many cuts.
He had a good read right here, actually. I thought I was good here, but he extended up and it worked. I was just like ready to resign at that point.
Yeah. The thing is, so this is what we call like smelling Aji. Like there's so many there's liberty problems on so many different things. There's cutting points. That to me, like I just have I guess you develop this the more games you play. You just have like a feeling that there's maybe something wrong here. And I'm like looking at it, and you just said that there's a Tsuji. I haven't found the Tsuji yet. I'm just looking at it, and I'm like,
Okay.
I feel like I could do something here. Like something's wrong here because there's too many cutting points. There's too many liberties. But what led to that? Like we need to understand what leads to that. Well, how many cutting points do you have? How many liberties do you have? Understanding that and understanding like just fixing is okay. And it also looks Sente as well because the corner and this is maybe not alive. I'm not sure. But just staying solid but also keeping Sente is super powerful. So the biggest weakness at the Q level and attack and defense is cutting points and liberties. Undervaluing cutting points is so incredibly dangerous. Cutting points are the most powerful thing in attack and defense at the Q level. Dawn's, it is too. It's just we kind of expect each other to know it a little bit better, I guess. But cutting points is like the foundation of all of attack and defense. Cutting points and surrounding. So you got to be very careful. Yeah.
Yeah. So the extension threatened the clamp at K7, so Black had to respond there, and that was it basically.
And this
is netted, so it's dead.
Yeah.
I was already crying inside.
Probably you still want to play. I don't know. Maybe not. I want the Aji, but
I mean, poor Jerry. Like, I just tried to bully him the rest of the game, but he stayed strong, and that was it. Yeah. I'd say it ended here.
It's not over because there's still like unsettled areas, but you're definitely behind. So understanding bases and cutting points. So the mistakes that led here is bases and cutting points. I'm talking about white, black too much. I should also talk about white. Okay. White left a group without a base. So this move or this move, it should probably here, is actually quite important because I think the theme in this game is bases and cutting points. I don't really like cutting because cutting implies that we're attacking, but we're the weak group. We have no base. We're in Black's area. Black has more stones than we do. We're outnumbered. So instead of cutting, what about threatening to cut in order to get better shape? And then taking this base while making my base. And now defense is going to just become so much easier here because Black isn't going to be strong enough to kill us. If the more Black plays, the more, like, let's say I play here or something, the more stones I get to this baseless group. So understanding bases and cutting points, I think, is the big thing about this opening. Can we get a peep? Does that work? No, not quite. Here? Yeah, that one.
Could you show me what your reading is on that peep? Why that didn't work? Ladder. Okay.
I'm just reading the ladder. That's all I'm doing. I'm wondering if you can do that in sit tape. It's just something else to consider. Probably not. It's not the important thing. Yeah.
So you'd say this fight would be good for Black if Black stayed more solid, like at F4 or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because White got two weak groups instead of making a base. White shouldn't. This cut is a little bit overplay. When you cut, you're saying, I'm going to disconnect you and fight you, okay? But if you cut with a baseless group, it's very dangerous. So you have to, like, pick your timing. You don't want to pick a timing where you're outnumbered. Like, a lot of times a good fight or a good time to cut is when your opponent's, like, in your area. When you are outnumbering them, then, yeah, you can be a little bit aggressive with the Hane and, like, cut me. I dare you kind of thing. And when you play a Hane, they cut, or when they play a Hane, you want to cut them because you control that area. So it's a bit dangerous to cut when you're not in control of the area and you don't have a base. So that's the danger here. Yeah, that's good reading. This is possible, but I think too much. So knowing what we just talked about, the A group is a baseless group, correct? So what would be a better way to defend it?
Let me try this one. I guess then you would try to take the extension away from white by playing a cap or something at N7.
But we're playing defense, not offense. Stay connected with defense. Watch your cutting points. So defend yourself while pressuring your opponent. What would you do?
All right, then M7.
Right. That's much better.
Yeah.
And then you play like something like that. You're watching the cutting points. But do you see how more smooth that is, and how it feels more powerful? Whereas if you start playing crazy stuff like this, then maybe I'm going to try to find some sort of squeeze to Tsuji or something, right? I start finding these openings and poking your shape to make my own shape and maybe find my escape route. The more Aji you have, the more options I have to use and find Tsuji. So here, the reason I don't like it builds the right, but guess what? I'm going to run away. I'm staying connected. Dog's face is connected. I'm running away, and I'm also attacking you while running. So you're kind of setting up his own, like you're helping white attack you. Yeah. Touching is probably not as good because liberties are a thing. Yeah. I almost want a Hane. No, Hane's good because I don't have time to cut. Boom. There's no time to cut. So we do that. Knights move to the elephant side, but you have cuts, so you got to check these. But maybe it's okay because of the liberties here. So this is why I wanted to extend earlier. So maybe here like this. And then it's a complicated fight, but that's kind of what you want since you're losing. So it's like, let's dance in this area.
Yeah. One thing to note is that AlphaGo thinks I lost the game by playing the bamboo joint instead of just playing a K6 a while ago. So, rather, instead of playing the 1 point jump at J7,
table shape.
I lied.
So this is the same principle, right? So here, you're playing defense, you're staying connected, right? But guess what this does? This plays defense, stay connected, but it also surrounds white. The reason it doesn't look conventional is because, it looks like I just got cut. But actually, can white cut this? Because there's those weak groups. So it's like, if you can't lose that liberty, then this isn't cuttable. So it's just another layer, right? I kind of like that you're staying connected to that. Like this bamboo is better than what you were doing with the Hanes. It's staying connected, but yeah, it's the idea. This is what you have to learn to get to Dawn from 5Q to 1 Dawn. It's defense and offense with good shape that does the job better. And one pitfall is like you see problems with your opponent and you start playing like this. The difference between this and this is the difference between like 5Q and 1 Dawn. Is one is an offense, the other is defense that also has offense.
Would you say that? Sorry. Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead.
Well, would you say that the quickest route to improvement here is more about just being able to tell when I have weak groups, or was it the reading itself that was an issue?
Reading actually isn't that important until 3 Dawn. The only important things to read are cuts and connections, the life and death when something gets surrounded, and have a general idea of what's going to happen. But super in-depth reading, like all of this, you can get away with not doing it. It helps. It's definitely useful and a good skill. But when I play, for example, when on stream, every month, I play a simul. I don't have time to read all this stuff out. All I'm doing, if I'm black here and I'm playing a 6Q and a simul, all I'm doing is this stuff. I don't care. I'm not reading all that. That's white's problem, right? I don't have to read this. Now, if I have the time, I'm going to, but you can get to Dawn without a lot of reading. Now, if I was white, of course I'm reading this. I'm going to die, right? That's super important. But as black, I'm I'm just going to reduce the eye space. I don't care. Just reduce it until it's not Sente. Just reduce it until it's not Sente.
This is important to me because reading makes me want to quit Go, but doing this type of thing I can do. You're saying, would you say black generally has the better setup here, basically because white cut when white was weak? But black did have the better setup until you gave white Tsujis to escape. You gave white too much Aji. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
I won't quit.
Yeah, don't quit from reading. Actually, reading is one thing I find interesting is single digit cues make reading way harder than it should be. Like, I just had a student earlier who's like trying to read this complex life and death, and I'm like, you missed the ladder. Like, why are you reading this whole life and death thing out when there's a ladder, right? Reading has to do with more accuracy and shape recognition. In other words, Go problems, right? I gave you guys the 101 Wei Chi site, and I said if you can do all those problems on that site, you have dawn level reading. What is that? It's shape recognition, understanding nets, understanding ladders, understanding that 2-point jumps are more cuttable than 1-point jumps, understanding Hanes have cutting points but Nobis don't, and then understanding what do I want to do? Do I want to move without getting cut, or do I control this area? It's more about accuracy than really in-depth reading. So like the difference between this one and this one, like why even bother applying reading when you don't even know that you're a weak group? Like reading, there's kind of shortcuts to reading. It's just understanding what's actually happening, and then just read the way to make it better with good shapes.
Right.
So everyone here can read a ladder. So reading isn't hard. It's just you keep reading weird stuff. Like why would I read this? Right? I'm dying. I'm going to surround and stuff. Right? Like why would I read? Like for me, I would never consider the shoulder hit because I know at a glance that this doesn't work because white just runs, right? So it's like, okay, what is my goal? If I'm building the right, of course I consider the shoulder hit. It's a great shape to build.
Yeah.
But I'm playing defense, so it doesn't even register in my mind.
Yeah, Sean, I wonder, like, you can easily drill reading, but how do you drill this skill? Like, weak group recognition, shape. Do you just have to play a lot of games and get reviews? Like,
no.
what's the play?
Mostly, I tell my students to constantly ask themselves the questions of my Colossi approach, which I took from Shy Ghost and kind of expanded upon, I guess. It's where am I weak? Where's my opponent weak? Where's the big move? And I'm like, every single move asks these blasted questions, right? Every move has to have a goal. So here, I don't like every time I review a game, every time I tell my students to review a game, I'm like, okay, on this move, are you playing defense, offense, or big move? Okay, you're playing defense. Okay, on this move, defense, offense, or big move. You played offense. I'm like, well, should you have played offense? You had a baseless group. No, you should have played defense. Okay, so play here. That's double digit Q. All right, single digit Q, we apply pressure while playing defense. So it's just a matter of asking yourself the questions every single move, and you do that thousands of times, right? Because if you play 200 moves or like 100 to 200 moves a game, then you will ask yourself thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and that's all you're doing is simplifying the game for yourself.
Are you saying I can review my own games then and basically apply this question?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
like,
sweet.
What is the goal of your turn? Don't try to be a pro. It's impossible to be a pro at this level. What is the bare bones basics here? You have weakness. Yeah. White has weakness. Which one's more important? Yours. Okay. Now let's apply cleverness. Defend yourself while applying pressure, right? And that's basics. Now, pro might walk, like a pro can always walk in the room. AI can walk in the room and say something's much, much better. I don't really care about that. Like the AI said this is better. Well, I don't really care. I actually don't hate your bamboo joint. I mean, it's defense. It's just, you can do it better. You can always do it better. But do you do the goal, which is defense, then offense, then big move? And then it's single digit Q, it's about multi-purpose.
Where am I weak? Where's my opponent weak? Where's the big move? I could review my own games and ask that.
Yeah. I'm not sure if this might be self-promoting. Am I allowed to share like my thing, my document?
Absolutely.
I'm good with it.
Okay. Let me just I'll give you what I give my students, which is my bread and butter of what I teach is the Colossi approach, because I'm Colossius. This is my approach to the game, right? Now, there's actually a flow chart that I made to like simplify it. There's a whole document. This is a whole page.
Oh, that's badass.
But I expand on the 3 questions. Like Shy Ghost taught me the 3 questions, and then I expanded on what I thought. How do I answer those questions? So, do I have weakness? Do I have a base? Do I need to run away? Do I need eye space? Do I need the vital point? Right? And this is my bread and butter of what I teach. So if you're asking yourself, is my move good or bad? This is the goal of the turn. You can get to dawn with just this. This is the goal. Once you have the goal, everything else is just understanding how to apply the goal better. So whenever I tell my students, I'm like, what are you doing? I want them to point me out, where are they on this flowchart? Like, are they at, do I have a weakness step 3, make eye space? Okay, did this move expand your eye space? And then what I teach them is understanding where they are on the flowchart and how to play a move that helps answer the question. So for example, do I have weakness? Do you have a base? No. Okay. What moves make a base? 3 space jumps? No. Is it cuttable? That's not a base. Is it on the 4th line? That's not a base. Bases are on 3rd line. Bases aren't cuttable, right? Just understanding these basic principles. This is basically my methods for get to one done. So if I can just.
Thank you, Sean.
Yep. Give me the move. I can't. I don't know if you can see, but the stupid Zoom is blocking my tabs. There we go.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I spent a lot of time with this game, so hopefully these 2 players find it helpful. I think the big problem is both of you guys were attacking with cutting points, and you should have just been playing defense.